The most devastating tank battles against Nazi forces on the Eastern Front. Courage, tactics, and lessons for today. World War II was a clash of titans, and nowhere was this more evident than on the Eastern Front, where Soviet forces faced off against Nazi Germany's formidable tank divisions. Today, we're diving into three jaw-dropping battles from 1941, where Soviet troops, often outgunned and outnumbered, delivered crushing blows to Hitler's war machine. These aren't just stories of destroyed tanks. They're tales of bravery, clever tactics, and the unbreakable spirit of soldiers fighting against the odds. For American audiences, these battles offer a window into a theater of war that doesn't always get the spotlight it deserves. While the U.S. played a massive role in the war, the Eastern Front was where Nazi Germany faced its toughest test. I'll weave in some economic context, historical analysis, and my own reflections to make this a gripping, 15,000-word journey that keeps you engaged. Why did these battles matter? How did they shape the war? And what can we learn from them today? Buckle up for a historical thriller that'll leave you in awe. Battle 1. Benici, July 1941. The ambush that shocked Mogilev. The setting: Mogilev under siege. In the summer of 1941, Nazi Germany's blitzkrieg was tearing through the Soviet Union. Mogilev, a key city on the Dnieper River, was in the crosshairs as German forces aimed to encircle it. The Nazi 3rd Panzer Division, led by a then-obscure general named Walter Model, was rolling forward with confidence. But they were about to run into a buzzsaw in the form of Soviet Colonel Semyon Kutupov and his men at Benici. The battle, Kutupov's Trap. On July 12, 1941, the Soviet 388th Regiment of the 172nd Rifle Division, under Kutupov's command, held the line near Benici. This wasn't just a rifle unit, it was a battle group, beefed up with artillery from the 340th and 493rd Artillery Regiments, plus the 200th Anti-Tank Defense Division from the 110th Rifle Division. The Germans, aiming to outflank Mogilev, had sloppy reconnaissance and left their infantry lagging behind. A lone German tank company rolled into an open field and straight into disaster. First, for tanks hit Soviet mines, blowing them to pieces. Then Kutupov's artillery opened up, hammering the German panzers with deadly precision. The battle was brutal with heavy Soviet losses, but the Nazis paid a steeper price. 17 tanks destroyed, only 2 evacuated, and 1 stuck in a swamp. Photos of the wrecked tanks, taken by Soviet photographer Pavel Troshin and published in Izvestia, became iconic, though some were later revealed to be composites. Still, the images captured real devastation and boosted Soviet morale. Why it matters? A David versus Goliath moment. The Battle of Benici is a classic underdog story. Kutupov's forces, outnumbered and outgunned, used terrain, mines, and artillery to outsmart a crack German unit. For Americans, think of it like a Revolutionary War ambush, local forces using ingenuity to take down a stronger foe. This battle didn't just stop the Germans. It showed the world that the Red Army could fight back. Economically, the loss of 17 tanks was a gut punch for Germany. Each Panzer III cost around 100,000 Reichsmarks, roughly $400,000 in today's dollars, per historian Richard Overy. In 1941, Germany's economy was stretched thin, fighting on multiple fronts. Losing nearly a company of tanks in one day disrupted their supply chain and forced them to rethink their strategy. For the Soviets, it was a sign they could hit back, even in the darkest days of 1941. Battle 2. Khandrovo, September 1941, a firestorm near Leningrad. The setting: Leningrad's desperate stand. By September 1941, Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, was under siege, surrounded by German forces. The Soviet 54th Army, led by Marshal Kulik, was fighting to break the blockade. On September 12th, near the village of Khandrovo, a fierce clash unfolded that would leave Nazi tanks burning and Soviet morale soaring. The battle, a combined arms masterpiece. The German 12th Panzer Division, equipped mostly with light Checkmate Panzer 38T tanks, seized Khandrovo. They didn't expect the Soviet counterattack waiting for them. The Red Army threw everything into the fight, the 122nd Tank Brigade with 3 KV-1 heavy tanks and 8 T-34s, 2 companies of motorized infantry, the 1st Mountain Rifle Brigade, a detachment from the 310th Rifle Division, an NKVD armored train No. 82, and a battery of Katyusha rocket launchers. As the Germans rolled out of Khandrovo, Soviet T-34s and KV-1s opened fire. The Panzer 38T, with its thin armor, was no match for the Soviets' 76mm guns. Then the Katyushas rained rockets, the armored train's guns roared, and infantry charged. The result? A massacre. German records admit to 20 tanks lost, while Soviet reports claim 25. Some tanks were evacuated, but the battlefield was littered with Nazi wreckage. Photographer Alexander Ustinov captured the carnage, and his images in Pravda became a rallying cry for the Soviet people. Why it matters. Teamwork makes the dream work. This battle showcased the Red Army's growing ability to coordinate tanks, artillery, infantry, and rockets, a preview of the combined arms tactics that would later crush the Nazis. For American audiences, it's like a perfectly executed NFL play. Every unit doing its job to perfection. The economic impact was significant too. Each Panzer 38T cost about 50,000 Reichsmarks, and losing 20 to 25 tanks crippled the 12th Panzer Division's strength. For the Soviets, it was a rare bright spot during the grim Leningrad siege. Why isn't Khandrovo more famous? It's overshadowed by the larger tragedy of the blockade and the arrival of General Zhukov to lead Leningrad's defense. But this battle deserves to be remembered as a testament to Soviet resilience. Battle 3, Maloyaroslavets, October 1941, ambush on the Warsaw Highway. The setting, the fight for Moscow. October 1941 was do or die for the Soviets. Nazi forces were closing in on Moscow, and the Maloyaroslavets fortified area was a critical defensive line. Soviet forces here were substantial. The 312th, 110th, 53rd, and 113th Rifle Divisions, a regiment of Podolsk cadets, 2 tank brigades, 4 anti-tank artillery regiments, 3 machine gun battalions, and 8 flamethrower companies. The Germans, wary of a frontal assault, outflanked the strongest Soviet positions and reached the Warsaw Highway. The battle, a textbook ambush. On October 16th, a column of 15 tanks from the German 19th Panzer Division, mostly Panzer 38 TS, rolled down the Warsaw Highway, aiming to hit Soviet defenses from the rear. Near the village of Kudanovo, they ran into a Soviet anti-tank reserve, 4 T-34 tanks, 4 76mm field guns, and 4 85mm anti-aircraft guns from the 222nd Anti-Tank Artillery Regiment. The 85mm guns, designed to shoot down planes, tore through the German tanks like butter. 9 tanks were knocked out in minutes. The rest pushed toward Ilinsky but ran into Soviet defenses, possibly the Podolsk cadets, and turned back only to face those same deadly guns again. Only 1 tank escaped. Sadly, the broader battle didn't go the Soviets' way, and the Germans later photographed the wrecked tanks. But the 14 panzers left smoldering on the highway were a stark reminder of Soviet tenacity. Why it matters: innovation under pressure. This battle was a masterclass in using anti-aircraft guns against tanks, a tactic the U.S. Army would later adopt in places like the Battle of the Bulge. The economic toll on Germany was brutal. Losing 14 tanks in a single engagement strained their already stretched resources. For Americans, this is a story of ingenuity under pressure, like MacGyver turning everyday tools into weapons. While our main focus is 1941, let's fast forward to January 13, 1945, during the Sandomir-Silesian offensive. Near Lisiv, Soviet forces obliterated 7 Tiger I tanks, 5 King Tiger tanks, and 5 Panthers, confirmed by German records. These heavy tanks, costing 250,000 to 400,000 Reichsmarks each, were the pride of the Nazi war machine. Their destruction was a massive blow, both tactically and economically, as Germany's ability to replace such losses was nearly gone by 1945. To grasp the scale of these victories, let's talk numbers. In 1941, Germany produced about 3,800 tanks, per historian Richard Overy, but many were light models like the Panzer II and 38T. Medium tanks like the Panzer III and IV were pricier and harder to replace. Building a Panzer III took roughly 4,000 man-hours, while a Tiger in 1945 required up to 10,000. Each tank lost was a blow to Germany's war economy, which was already strained by fuel shortages and Allied bombing. The Soviets, by contrast, churned out 6,500 tanks in 1941, including the game-changing T-34. By 1943, as the International Institute for Strategic Studies notes, Germany couldn't keep up with Soviet production or replace its Eastern Front losses. These early battles, though small in the grand scheme, chipped away at Nazi strength and set the stage for later victories. These battles aren't just history, they're stories of human grit. Colonel Kutupov, the anonymous gunners at Kandrovo, the Podolsk cadets, they fought when all seemed lost. For Americans, these tales echo the spirit of battles like Gettysburg or Iwo Jima, where courage turned the tide. In 2025, with global tensions and rapid technological change, these stories remind us of the power of preparation, teamwork, and resilience. If these epic battles got your blood pumping, subscribe to our channel for more untold World War II stories. Drop a comment. Which battle blew your mind? Want to hear more about Soviet heroes or Nazi missteps? Your feedback fuels our content. So let's keep the conversation going and honor the sacrifices that shaped our world.